One, there have always been male cheerleaders, so what's different with the Minnesota Vikings? What's different in the NFL? Has Cracker Barrel gone woke, or is it the latest in the decline toward refinement culture? Plus, don't let me hear you, Congressman, criticize the Secretary of Defense 45th pull-up. Oh, cool, you can do 10 pretty ones. Let's see you take the Pete and Bobby challenge. Congressman Jason Crow. 2, Elon Musk says population decline is a threat to humanity. So what can we do about repopulating the earth? I know you think you know the answer, but we're going to hear from a doctor about conception. 3, the 3 biggest legal cases you don't know that define the future of free speech. It is Will Cain Country, streaming live at the Will Cain Country YouTube channel, the Fox News Facebook page, terrestrial radio, some 3 dozen markets across this great United States of America, but always on demand by simply subscribing at Apple or on Spotify. While you are subscribing, make sure you head over to the Will Cain Country YouTube channel, the new home for our community, you, the Willisha. You need to subscribe, like, set a reminder that we're going to be here with you every Monday through Thursday at 12 o'clock Eastern Time. Drop into the comment section. We bring you into the show. Not a sermon and not a pulpit, but a hangout and a conversation between me, Tinfoil Pat, Two-A-Days Dan, and you, the Willisha. Boys, we had a special guest in the Will Cain Country studios this morning. It is a guest that for some reason has declined all invitations to appear on Will Cain Country. He's a guest that I famously told you at the Super Bowl I walked up to, and I got the literal cold shoulder. I did that thing at a party where people are talking and they're in a group, and there is the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. There is Jerry Jones, and I thought, now is my moment. I've defended this franchise on First Take. I have rooted for this franchise for the entirety of my life. I've put myself out there on social media. I know members of the Jones family. Surely this will go well. I got a quick glance. I got the clothes off on the conversational circle, and I kicked my can back to where I came. I did not meet Jerry Jones, but this morning he made his way into the Will Cain Country Studios. There's our tech manager, Scott King, hanging out with Jerry Jones in studio this morning as he appeared on Fox and Friends. There's Scott. He's got his hands raised, his fists pumped. He got to meet the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. I told him, show him my ball. I have the commemorative thank you, happy birthday ball sitting right there on my shelf from number 9 himself, from Tony Romo. I don't know. Maybe we've broken the ice.
Let's interview Scott about it.
Maybe now that he's out there promoting his Netflix series and documentary, which, by the way, is just the best piece of nostalgia porn for any fan of the Dallas Cowboys. I'm 3 episodes in. It's pretty awesome to hear the stories about the glory days of the Dallas Cowboys. But he was here. He just wasn't on Will Cain Country. But we do have a lot for you today. It's going to be a very, very, very fun show today. We've got a good bunch of good stories, and I think we have an in-depth conversation that you're not going to hear much of. The world's richest man has been talking about population decline and the problem that we're simply not having babies anymore. Well, what can we do about that? Dr. Ann Shippy has a book out entitled The Preconception Revolution. I know what you're going to say. Have more sex. Conceive. Have more babies. But why aren't we? What's the problem? Why are we not repopulating the earth? But before we get into that, we are going to do our best, once again, to venture into the world of quick takes. Story number 1. Now to take us through quick takes is the most electric man in broadcasting. Every time he speaks, you can feel the electricity running through your veins. It is entertainment unadulterated. It's a wonder it's not yet in primetime on NBC. Why hasn't it replaced Stephen Colbert on CBS? We turn now the reins over to Tinfoil Pat.
I appreciate that, Will. I'm no Kevin Cork, though, but we do try to do our best here on the Will Cain Country Show. And we're not going to bury the lead, Will. Cracker Barrel is making big waves. People are claiming they went woke after they made major renovations to their stores, changed the entire layout, opened it up, modernized it, went with a minimal look. And then yesterday, they changed their logo. Their iconic Cracker Barrel logo, the man sitting next to a barrel, is now just the words Cracker Barrel. And people are outraged. And they think that the company went woke, Will.
Has Cracker Barrel gone woke? Well, I'm having trouble seeing the leap to wokeism. I know that people have apprised me the new CEO of Cracker Barrel comes from the HR wing of corporate America, that she has been involved at various times in DEI and the things that would lead one into generic, personalityless, mind-drone world of wokeism. But I'm not sure that's what I see when I look at this Cracker Barrel logo. When I look at the redesign of Cracker Barrel, I'm not sure that what I see is woke, but what I see is refinement culture. And that's something we've talked about here on Will Cain Country. Refinement culture. The idea that over time, not just graphic design, but interior design. Not just interior design, but vehicles. And not just vehicles, but even pro sports, through the world of data and analytics and consumerism, has been pushed into generic sameness, has been refined in what people are calling refinement culture. Take a look at that Cracker Barrel logo. Tell me that doesn't look like every other logo in corporate America. The old logo is clunky. It's got personality. It's unique. And all of that personality has been drained into the plain yellow hexagon with the words Cracker Barrel. Now, I'll tell you, Cracker Barrel is not alone. Take a look at some of these corporate logos over time that have been refined into bland, generic corporate America. You can see Facebook over time and their evolution from the lowercase yearbook style font of its origins into generic copperplate, evenly spaced out Facebook. And it's happened to everybody. Microsoft, no longer slanted and leaning forward, but straight up and down. And I believe Times New Roman. Everything begins to look the same. eBay with those offset and staggered letters. Now, plain, linear, eBay. And we could go on and on. Burberry. Burger King. The Burger King logo of your youth isn't the Burger King logo of today. Warner Brothers, Post-it notes, Frito-Lay, Dunkin' Donuts. Every one of these logos, Volkswagen and Toyota, have lost any sense of uniqueness, any quirkiness, anything that could turn off the consumer into something that is lowest common denominator, into mass appeal. But it's not just logos. It is, as I mentioned, interior and exterior design. Look at the evolution of McDonald's over time. For any of you watching on YouTube or on Facebook, you can see, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, you can remember the way McDonald's looked in your youth. In the 1990s, it was cluttered, it was messy, there was characters all over the place. Hell, there existed Ronald McDonald. What happened to Ronald McDonald? What happened to Grimace? What happened to the Hamburglar? And look at the evolution through time. Through the 2000s, you still got the pitched roof, but all the personality has been lost from the outside. And now in the 2020s, if you drive by McDonald's today, what does it look like? Well, it looks like every other fast food restaurant or strip mall in America. It's a plain, modernized box with some arches and the word McDonald's across the front. No pitched roof. It looks like it could be a Gap. There would be no difference if you were driving past a McDonald's or a Gap. But again, as I mentioned, it's not just design on the interior and the exterior. What do you think has happened to cars? If you're not old enough to remember, in the 1970s, it was as likely you ran into someone driving a yellow Datsun as you would seeing them drive a black Cadillac. Forget the brands. I'm talking about the car color. In the 70s, you had yellow, you had green, you had red. Take a look at the number of selections of car colors over time. We're basically down. I believe over 70% of the market is either some version of black, gray, or white. Under gray, you would include silver. Where are the red cars? Where are the blue cars? Where are the yellow cars? The green cars are basically gone. We're refining this. Why? Well, because most people want to buy black, white, or gray. So we got to make them all black, white, or gray. And I get it. You want to make money. You want to play to the consumer. You're refining. And we're refining everything into sameness. The most fascinating example of this might be actually professional sports. As we get better at professional sports, basketball, soccer, you figure out which plays work, which designs work. Everybody copies one another. And before you know it, 50% of the shots in the NBA are taken from the three-point line. And every game looks the same. That, I think, is what's happening to Cracker Barrel.
Time's up, Will.
They are refining themselves into no personality, into generic corporate America. We've got a clock on quick takes today. I've got 5 minutes to get this out and still remain the definition
almost
of quick.
Hit it.
And I'm actually proud of myself, 2 days. I almost hit the 5 minute mark. Take it away, Tinfoil.
Well, the president of the United States is getting back into the redistricting fight. Obviously, Texas and California are having a big blowout. And he just had a post that said, "The great state of Missouri is now in. I'm not surprised. It is a great state with fabulous people. I won it all 3 times in a landslide. We're going to win the midterms in Missouri again, bigger and better than ever." Missouri is now in the redistricting fight, trying to get more Congress people into the Congress on the Republican side. What say you?
This is a fascinating standoff in the Old West streets of America, where if you were standing across the road from Donald Trump with your finger on the trigger of your gun, ready to pull in this duel, you just realized that the other guy, the sheriff in town, has a lot more ammunition. Governor Gavin Newsom of California has threatened to redistrict California in the face of Texas redistricting. Let us rewind the clock and remind everyone, inform, provide context on why this is so important. Historically, almost in every midterm election, when the presidency, both the Senate and the House, are controlled by one political party, as is now done by Republicans, in the midterm, it swings the other direction. The party out of power wins the House of Representatives. It's called the midterm curse. One would expect then that Democrats would win the midterm election in the House of Representatives. In walks Texas. Texas redistricts their state to effectively move 5 seats from Democrats to Republicans, increasing the percentage of chance for Republicans to win the midterms. Add on top of that, by the way, there are massive voter registration problems within the Democratic Party. No enthusiasm has meant that people under the age of 45, something now like 30-40% of them are registering as Democrats, where before it was 60%. Men have absolutely plummeted. There's no energy to become or vote, and the redistricting has meant it's going to be harder to conjure up a win for Democrats. And that's why you've seen this massive freak out from the left. In walks Gavin Newsom. He's going to redistrict California to balance out what could be won in Texas. The problem is that's the last bullet in the Old West standoff for Democrats. Why is it the last bullet? Because Illinois, New York, Massachusetts, all the democratically owned states have already been gerrymandered to the max. You can't wring anything else out of it to give to Democrats. California is the only state left to gerrymander even more than they already have. And if they do so, it would take California down to 1 congressional Republican. But Texas is not for Republicans. It's literally one of the first bullets to be shot. Texas, matching what California's done so far, not exceeding it, is only the beginning of what could be done by Republicans. If Gavin Newsom pushes this in California, Republicans could redistrict in Florida. They could redistrict in Georgia, Republican-owned states, getting yet more Republican seats in Congress. And as just stated by Donald Trump, the first on that list may actually be the state of Missouri, another fairly conservative, somewhat Republican-leaning state that could be redistricted into a strong state for Republicans. If Gavin Newsom wants to have a shootout in the streets of the Old West, he better make sure he has the ammunition. Because what I see is he's firing his last bullet. Donald Trump and the Republicans haven't even begun to empty the chamber. Take it away, Tinfoil Pat.
Sorry, I wasn't prepared, Will.
Under time.
That was under 5 minutes, so okay, here we go.
You're getting better.
So
Shocking, he was underprepared.
it was a joke, Will. I was
play.
fine.
Set up story number 3. You got 4 stories. Have you already failed at story 3?
I think 4 is too many. We need to cut it down to 2, maybe. I don't know.
No, I got this, okay? Now, people are outraged, Will, just like with everything. People are outraged.
Oh, boy, are they.
There are now male cheerleaders in the NFL. And people are not taking kindly to it. Other people are wondering, hey, where's the outrage about male cheerleaders in college sports? But what's your take, Will?
So, this entire controversy around the Minnesota Vikings male cheerleaders at first strikes me as uninteresting. I'm just not that interested in a huge food fight over something that I love, which is football, college football, the NFL. But the more this issue is shoved into our face, the more it needs an honest conversation about why someone would be outraged about male Minnesota Vikings cheerleaders. Let us submit. Male cheerleaders have been a part of football since its beginning. You've had male cheerleaders at schools like the University of Wisconsin, as you can see on your screen if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. You've had male cheerleaders at schools like Texas A&M for years, the Yell Leaders, who have been the subject in Texas of some light ribbing. But take a look at the images on your screen. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, you can imagine the Yell Leader at Texas A&M. He's pretty jacked. He's built. He's got a male costume on. He's giving the gigging Aggies thumbs up. Yeah, they do some pretty funny things. They whoop, they holler, they hype up the crowd at Texas A&M. But the truth is, these are men doing something that we as a society is more well-suited in the hands of women, but yet still doing manly acts within the profession of cheerleading. What's happening in Minnesota is totally different, and it's happening across the NFL. We're not looking at male cheerleaders as has existed throughout history. What we're looking at is males pretending and pantomiming and almost literally wearing the costume of female cheerleaders. What we're watching is men be women. We're not watching men be male cheerleaders. We're watching men be female cheerleaders. From the pom-poms to the dances, from the twerking to the skimpy outfits, you are watching masculinity retired in favor of femininity. And you're watching it retired by men. And I don't know where the consumer demand is this. Where is anybody asking for a male cheerleader acting like a female cheerleader? Stands to reason that a female cheerleader would be better than a male cheerleader at being a female cheerleader. With no demand for this, why is it being pushed? Why is it being celebrated? Why is it being championed? And for the PC bro sports guy out there that says that we're simply looking for cultural issues to divide America as we set off on one of the things that actually unites us and we love, which is professional football, why do you always focus on the reaction? It's as though the cultural standard is you can do something outlandish. You can change the culture at its fundamental level. You can destroy the concept of masculinity. And if anybody notices, they're the bad guy dividing America. If we don't let you march into cultural decline, if we dare speak up and say a word, we're the bad guy for pointing out who wants to see a dude acting like a woman on the sidelines of the NFL. That's my take on the Minnesota Vikings male cheerleader. One last story, Tinfoil Pat.
Well stated, Will. And now we go to the world of the Congress where the Democrats are, I don't know what they're doing. They're mocking our Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, and his pull-ups. Congressman Jason Crow the other day, I believe we have an image there, did
yes, we do,
10
Patrick.
pull-ups, 10 pull-ups, mocking Secretary Hegseth. And then we also have, is that it? That might be it.
Hold on real quick, Patrick. So Congressman Jason Crow of Colorado, who is a military veteran, put that up for me again one more time, 2 days. He posted on X the following. He said, "This is how you do a pull-up, Pete Hegseth. All the way up, all the way down, slow and controlled. Good luck finding your warrior ethos." He reposted someone making fun of Hegseth's, who knows, 45th, 46th, 48th pull-up, where he is struggling to get full extension, struggling to get his chin over the bar. Adam Kinzinger appeared on the Bulwark's trans-identifying show, The Man with the Pearl Necklace, saying that chin-ups are for women, pull-ups are for men. Because, again, on that last 40 to 50, Hegseth has switched his grip to the chin-up grip, where your palms are facing you. And then finally, I think you have this 2 days, or tinfoil, Pat. You got Governor Gavin Newsom, who's chimed in as well about Hegseth's pull-ups.
What that does for our side, it fires us up. It gets us going. These memes of you riding a velociraptor with like a 12-pack and 2 freaking rifles in your hand.
Oh, I know. I'm in good shape. How about my bicep?
I bet you could do a real pull-up
And
unlike
the 10-pack,
Hegseth
not
and
even
the other. Yeah.
There is Newsom showing off his biceps. I believe the female voice you hear is JoJo from Jersey, noted ex-personality on the left, talking again about Hegseth's pull-ups. Man, this one really chaps my hide, and it's not because he is my buddy. It's not because I'm friends with the Secretary of Defense. I just can think of nothing more unworthy, more dishonest, more totally fulfilling the definition of a D-bag than people who don't criticizing those that do. Congressman Jason Crow did 10 pull-ups. Congratulations, Congressman. Those are 10 pretty pull-ups. 40 more to go, plus 100 push-ups. See if you can beat 525. My suspicion, looking at those 10 pull-ups, by the way, Congressman, is you don't have another 40 in you. That last 2 in your set of 10, a bit of a struggle. And if you look back at Hegseth's first 30 to 40 pull-ups, they're beautiful. Not chin-ups, pull-ups. And as somebody who did this test yesterday, I can tell you, at the end, it's ugly. It's ugly in every way. It's ugly in your form. It's ugly in your lungs. It's ugly in your muscles. It's ugly in your recovery. But this is the equivalent. Take the internet out of it, because just think about how these people act on the internet. Let's put this into the real world, into real life. You're at the gym. You see a guy. He's taking a physical challenge. He's doing a physical challenge. And you're watching. You're there. And you see him cranking them out in good form. But at the end of this thing, as you've well past failure, he starts slipping on his form. And you're watching with your hands on your hips. And as his form is slipping, you're like, "Hey, bro, those aren't real pull-ups. You got to go all the way down." And you get on the bar and do 5 nice pull-ups. Everybody in the gym would look at you exactly as you are, as a D-bag. And the truth is, it would be so obvious that you're a D-bag, you wouldn't do it in real life. You wouldn't do it at the gym because you know how you would come off. You know that you're a D-bag. So you go to the internet, you tell lies, you take clips, and you pretend to be tough. So I don't think people are deluded. I think people can see the truth. Why don't you show us the truth? Show us the truth, Congressman Crow. Show us the truth, Kinzinger. Show us the truth, Gavin Newsom. Do 50 pull-ups and 100 push-ups. Do it faster than the Secretary of Defense. You've got 5 minutes and 25 seconds. I did all of those takes almost in less than 5 minutes, which means that brings us to a conclusion on this episode of Quick Takes. Coming up, Elon Musk has said one of the biggest issues facing civilization, facing humanity, is the fact that we're not having babies. Let's see if we can figure it out together with the author of The Preconception Revolution, Dr. Ann Shippy, next on Will Cain Country. Have more babies. Dr. Ann Shippy asked me if I have kids. Yeah, I have 2, which means I'm not reproducing at the rate to sustain civilization. It is Will Cain Country, streaming live at the Will Cain Country YouTube channel, the Fox News Facebook page, at Spotify and Apple. Co-hosting my show today with my man Saint. He's got his head on my knee, but dogs don't count. Dogs don't count. And I think a lot of people actually act like they do. Your dog is not your child. We got to have kids. Otherwise, as has been pointed out by the world's richest man, Elon Musk, we're in trouble in civilization. Here's what Elon Musk has had to say. Just a few, in the last couple of days, the last couple of weeks, he's been posting about repopulation. And he put this up 2 days. Let's show the audience what he had to say on X. He said people who have kids do need to have 3 kids to make up for those who have 0 or 1 kid, or population will collapse. He's referencing another post that says humans need 2.7 kids per woman to survive. We're not even close. Scientists now say 2.1 kids per woman won't cut it. That's historically been the number. 2.1 kids for anyone going, how do I have 0.1 or 0.7? Averaged out over the population. That means we need families having 2 to 3 kids across not just America, but across the world. And we have seen countries, entire continents, fail to replace their own population. I give you Japan and I give you Europe. And when that happens, in the case of Europe, you begin to import population. And then you change the country. And then you change the culture. That's exactly what's happening in Germany, in Italy, and all across Europe. Musk has said this is the biggest issue facing humanity. Here's Elon Musk.
I think we haven't yet evolved to deal with depopulation. You know, it's something we better evolve to deal with, or we're going to disappear. And once the depopulation ball starts rolling, you know, it seems to gather up speed. And I keep waiting for the birth rate to turn around, but it doesn't. It seems like population collapse accelerates.
Dr. Ann Shippy is the author of The Preconception Revolution, and she joins me now in studio here on Will Cain Country. Good to have you.
So nice to be here, and I think it really is one of the most important conversations we can be having right now.
So I have 2 to answer your question that you asked on the way into this segment that I wasn't able to answer directly. I have 2 kids, and that's not enough. I didn't have enough. So you say I did my work, but honestly, I have 2 great regrets in life. I've said this on numerous occasions. Number 1, I didn't serve in the military. Number 2, I didn't have more kids. That's not necessarily for civilization, but that I think it's the best thing that's ever happened in my life, and I wish I had more.
I do too. I've got 2 as well, and 2 more would have been great.
I totally agree, which only means start earlier. So if you're listening out there in your early 30s and you can't afford it and all these different excuses we give ourselves, forget it. Start. Have them. Have 3 or 4.
It always works out. Somehow it just works out. You just figure it out as you go. But more and more couples are really starting to have difficulty getting pregnant. So the fertility rate is 1 in 6 couples have trouble conceiving over the period of a year. And so a lot of people are having to go to IVF, which I think is the body's way of saying, wait, the body's not ready. And this ties into the children's health crisis that we're seeing. It's the rate of autism, 1 in 31 children now, up from 1 in 34 or 36 2 years before. The obesity, the diabetes, the autoimmunity, the childhood cancers, where our children are so sick right now. So what I see in my practice and what I've written about in this book is that there's hope when we work on fertility and we work on getting the parents healthy, both the men and the women, people have healthier babies as well.
Let's talk about the health aspects of why it's so hard for so many right now to have a baby. But let's talk about first the choices that many people are making. Because even for those that can, they're choosing not to, or at least to wait longer and longer. And there's a lot of interesting reasons as to why. I think economics is part of that. But interestingly, it's both a sense of economic insecurity and a sense of economic accomplishment that kind of both get in the way of having kids. So, in other words, a lot of people put it off because they're like, I can't afford it. I'm not ready. I'm not at the place in my career. And then the weird thing is that other people, if you wait, you start making money and you're on the ambition ladder. And before you know it, you're later in life and you're not having kids.
It really is an issue for women, and it was an issue for me as well. So I was a chemical engineer before I went to medical school, climbing the corporate ladder at IBM, and I put off having children and then ran into some issues with fertility as well, and then had my children at 34 and 38. But what I see with my patients is that when they get their bodies into good balance, both the man and the woman, the age is less of a factor. Like definitely for the average person, the fertility goes down as we age, but our bodies are really built to procreate. So when we get our bodies tuned up, we get pregnant. Like this last week, I just had a 47-year-old get pregnant first try after doing the protocol for a couple of months. She got super fertile. So women really are in a dilemma with their career. And as an IBM manager, I saw this over and over where women would put off having a child, but once she had her child, her whole desire on her career while she was taking care of that child as an infant, her priorities changed.
Totally. I'm sure. You watch it happen over and over again. And look, it's hard to judge people's choices, but you can also speak from experience that it becomes obviously, it's just so clear how it becomes your priority. And honestly, as a father, while fathers historically give more time to their careers even after a child is born, it's with the intended purpose of providing.
Exactly.
The point is all of this is for the focus of raising your family. Let's talk about this. What at least historically, okay, what is the ideal age for a woman to begin to have children? For her body, for when it's ready, when the body says, I'm ready to procreate?
I think that's a really hard question to answer because I think it is easier in your earlier 20s, but emotionally you might not be ready, or feeling like you're in the right relationship. I think that comes up with a lot of couples, is finding the right person to have your children with. I think that's actually part of the delay, is that by the time you've actually figured out who you want to create this family with, it's just taking longer and longer. And even watching my own kids, it's taking time to find that right person that feels like. Well,
I think people have. I think we have two things going on there. One, I think maybe they're the same thing. I think we've over-romanticized relationships, the Disneyfication of a relationship, meaning I've got to find my one true love. I've got to find my passion. When you're finding a partner to build a life with together, and that does two things at the same time with that acknowledgement. It makes it less mystical and unreachable, but it also makes it more important when you recognize, okay, genetically, value-based, I need someone who shares these things with me about what it means to build a family.
That's actually the first part of the book, is really helping people to think through these questions about, where are we on the same page, and where do we need to have the conversations to really have that solid foundation? Because if anything's going to rock your world and show you where the cracks are in a relationship, it's having a child and being on different pages on things.
And that, by the way, we're doing this interview. My dog Saint is walking around the studio at our feet at various times. I don't know what he's exploring, but I actually see this phenomenon as well of people treating dogs like children and using that as something that actually delays having children. I think in some ways it's decent practice for a young person to take care of something, to be like, I'm in charge. And by the way, on the discipline front, like, are you going to discipline this animal, or is this animal in charge of you? But I think that we can also, people call them their fur babies, and they're not your babies. They can be training wheels, but they're not riding the bike.
Yeah, it's very different once that you get the child in the mix, but you learn a lot about your partner from how they treat the animals and what their priorities are and how you work together to collaborate to take care of the animal. One of the things I want to make sure that I really have a chance to talk to you about is the fertility issue for men.
Yes.
I think that's going to be a really, really big topic. There was just an op-ed in the New York Times this last week, and more men are getting really afraid about their ability to have a family based on these things that they're seeing in the media. And it's one of the things I'm most excited about, and then I want to give people hope. There's nothing more devastating for a man than to find out that his sperm count is low and it doesn't look good for having a baby, and the only chance is to go IVF. But what I see in my practice is that we can dramatically change what's going on there by doing a 3, 6, 12-month protocol where we really work on avoiding the environmental toxins, helping get the toxins out of the body, building up the nutrient status. Like, there's so many amazing research studies showing how nutrients really help with sperm production by managing stress, all of these kinds of things. We can really change what's going on for the fertility of the man. And not only that, but by the time capsule that the sperm is for the baby, he's giving his child the best gift he can possibly give to improve their health.
Okay, I do want to move into this, which is the primary focus of your book, The Preconception Revolution, and that is the health aspects of this entire thing. I think we needed to work through the cultural and societal choices that many people are making, because what those choices lead us towards is attempting to have children later in life when it does get harder. You brought up at the beginning of our conversation IVF and the increasing usage, and I think everybody listening, me as well, have somebody in their lives. I had children a little bit younger. I wasn't super young. I think I was in my early 30s, but who has had IVF, who's had to go the route of it. So, you know, in the old days, if you couldn't have kids, it was always blamed on the woman. It was. I mean, going back to like the King of England, I'm going to find a wife that can bear me a son, right? At how much, I'm not asking this because I'm interested in the blame game. I'm interested in this from the health perspective. How much of the trouble getting pregnant, from a statistical perspective, to the extent that you know, is because of health changes with the woman versus the man?
It's 50-50.
Is it really?
And a lot of times the man's health isn't even looked at until there's a problem. So what I really encourage is, let's take a look up front. Let's find out what's going on before you're even trying to conceive, and find out how healthy both people are, and then do some work to optimize and fine tune and make things even better, so that when you do start trying, you can just relax and enjoy and have fun.
Right. Okay, so you brought up the male health. So we know it, as you mentioned, it's in the media. Testosterone's down, sperm count's down, and it's not just with a 40-year-old man. It's happening now with 20-something-year-old men.
20-year-olds.
Okay, why is this happening?
So there's a lot of data around this. It's not just one thing, but probably the biggest data is around the exposure to environmental toxins. So every day in our food, beverages, in our lifestyles, we're being exposed to very small amounts of toxins. You wouldn't even think anything of them, but over time they accumulate. And a lot of times we're even exposed to them in utero. We come into the world with over 200 chemicals in our bodies.
Okay, so that's depressing sperm counts, and at really young ages.
At really young ages, and there's what's so exciting. I started this book in 2016, so now just to finally get it done this year is like, it's been almost a decade of really climbing through the research and seeing what's happening with my patients, and the research is like, I could spend a day a week just going through the research and really understanding. So there will be a second edition on this book, because now there's new data coming out on even how air pollution can affect sperm counts and the health of the sperm. So basically the epigenetics, the time capsule that the sperm is passing on, is even, in our air.
So you mentioned that a lot of men are coming to see you worried about this. So what advice do you give them? How can they get their sperm count up?
That's such a great question. It varies from person to person, but there are certain foundational things that we can look at. And the first is to avoid environmental toxins as much as possible. The plastics, filtering your water, eating organic food as much as possible.
Working out?
Okay, yes. Exercise is huge. Like having a good workout routine.
Like lifting weights, right? From what I've read, is
exactly.
not necessarily running a marathon. Lifting weights boosts.
Lifting weights, having good muscle
testosterone.
tone increases testosterone, but it also changes your epigenetics. It changes how your genes are being expressed. Managing stress, so things like...
So I'm in shape. I'm doing this hypothetically. I'm in shape. I lift weights. I eat right. It's not just that I can get someone pregnant more easily, but I pass on better genetics to that offspring.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's such a great gift that you get to give your child, to take care of yourself, to really prioritize yourself.
So that's going to be another excuse for people not to have babies. I got to get in shape first. Yeah, I got to get in shape before I have my baby, so that my baby gets some good genes.
I really do recommend taking the 3, 6, 12 months to do that, because you're going to have a healthier baby.
Wow.
And that's going to help your whole family.
That's amazing. Okay, let's go to the female side now. What are you seeing there? I mean, again, the popular armchair doctor is, the older a female is, the less, number of eggs she produces, decreasing the number of chances she has to get pregnant. You're already shaking your head no.
It drives me crazy. I just had a 31-year-old patient told by her doctor that she might have missed her window. It's just not true. This last week, I had a 47-year-old get pregnant on the first try. It's still early, right? She's 5 or 6 weeks, so we have to make sure she's going to be able to sustain the pregnancy. But she did the work. You know, she detoxed her body. She paid attention to the environment that she's living in, cleaned up all the plastics and things, and meditated and all the different things that I asked her to do. And 47, first chance, first shot.
Really?
Yeah.
And what about, okay, so a client like that, a patient like that, who's 47 years old. So the other, again, popular armchair doctor notion is the later in life that you get pregnant, the more potential health problems for the child. I think we've seen the statistics, you know, on Down syndrome. I don't know that autism correlates to the age of the woman. I've read before that autism correlates to the age of the father. I don't know if that's true, but I do know that the number of the probability and risk of health problems increases with the age of the parents.
Yes, in the standard population. What I see in my patients who are doing this work to really optimize their bodies, I'm seeing them have their healthiest children, even in their mid-40s.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. It really makes a difference. So I've had patients who had children with autism or autoimmune diseases have their healthiest child at the later time. So I know you're looking at me like, what?
No, I'm listening. I'm finding this fascinating.
It's really, and
your entire message, obviously, with the title of the book, what's about is the preconception. So it's what we're doing, regardless of age, is your argument, what we're doing with our bodies before we create a new body. And it's how healthy we are making ourselves that dictates the future for that child.
Exactly. You said it so well. And so that's why I'm calling it a revolution. You know, most women won't consider getting pregnant without taking a prenatal vitamin. That's so obvious. You need the folate and other things in a prenatal vitamin to grow a healthy baby. But what I see and what I think the research shows, there's over 500 references in my book because I'm such a nerd. I think what the research shows is that this preconception period is even more important because you can have both the man and the woman collaborating together to get healthy is even more powerful, even more important than taking.
And that's 3, 6, 12 months?
Right. So some of it depends on, like, so in my office, I get to do a lot of in-depth testing. I do a type of medicine called functional medicine. So I'm using the latest technology in testing to look at the toxin levels and the mitochondrial function and what the microbiome is doing. So I'm probably using a bunch of terms that might be new for some of the
I think we've learned.
But
I mean, if anybody's on Instagram at this point, we've learned the importance of mitochondria, of gut biome. That these are linked to diseases, but they're also linked to aging.
Exactly.
The mitochondria is huge on protecting your mitochondria, what it means for the aging process.
Yes, and it's huge for fertility, and it's huge for the health of your future child, for you to have healthy mitochondria, for you to have healthy microbiome.
So how do we do it? So as we begin to head towards the finish line here, without buying the book, which we will, but without having read it yet, for anyone listening, the Preconception Revolution, I've got 3, 6, 12 months. Like, what would you say? If somebody walked in, what would I need to be doing to create a super baby?
A super baby. Okay, so you want to eat the cleanest, healthiest, low inflammation diet. So for me, that's a paleo diet. So lots of good proteins and healthy vegetables, a little bit of good fats. Then you want to get as many of the toxins out of your environment that you can and do the supplements that I recommend to help you to detoxify. A lot of this information is on my website without even having to
Just
get
as a
book.
teaser on the supplements, what are we talking about? Vitamin D? What kind of supplements?
There is data on vitamin D helping with fertility. The most important ones that I like for this particular period have to do with helping your body to detoxify. Every patient I check has some toxins that have built up in their body, even if they think they're living a clean lifestyle. So something called liposomal glutathione boosts your body's ability. You make it in your body, but when you take some extra, it boosts your ability to get rid of the toxins. So that's my number one. And then number two is something called phosphatidylcholine. So that is a supplement. There's some choline in our foods, but most people are deficient in it. And by boosting phosphatidylcholine, you make healthier cell membranes, and it also supports detoxification.
Okay.
So those are my two favorites.
Supplements. Detoxify.
Yeah. Get your blood sugar as fine-tuned as you can. So use a continuous glucose monitor and know that you're not having blood sugar spikes. You want to try to keep your blood sugar after a meal as close to 120 or below as you can.
Wow. Okay. So this is eating right. And by the way, that's something I haven't paid attention to. I'm not that I'm trying to have a kid, but blood sugar. I always read about glucose levels spiking on the different things you're eating. I'm totally ignorant on that.
Oh my gosh, you're going to have so much fun. Get a continuous glucose monitor. You can get them online, or you can get your doctor to prescribe you one. It's so fun to play with because you'll find that there are some things that spike your blood sugar that you had no idea. And there are some things that you would think, oh, I can't get away with eating that, but you actually can.
Right. Okay. And then workout?
Workout. And then I think everybody's super stressed these days. I don't see very many people that don't feel an elevated amount of stress, especially since this whole COVID thing, right? And so find something that you can do on a day-to-day basis, like meditate. There's great data on meditation for longevity and for fertility as well.
Okay. The book is The Preconception Revolution. It's Dr. Ann Shippy, as you can hear. And I know, because I know some of you listeners out there, some of you are younger, and you may not be on your first child, but on your second or third or fourth child.
And it's just as important between kids. Like that's also part of the message is sometimes after the second or third, especially on the women's side, their bodies get pretty depleted from having built a baby, and breastfeeding also depletes a lot of nutrients. So the importance of rebuilding and really knowing that you've put a lot of good nutrients in to build the next one.
I can say with 100% honesty, if I were looking to procreate again, I would 100% be doing this. I would be doing this.
That means so much.
So
Thank you.
Check it out. The Preconception Revolution, Dr. Ann Shippy. We appreciate you driving up here from Austin and hanging out with us today on Will Cain Country.
Thank you.
All right. Check out that book. All right. When we come back, the 3 legal cases that you are not aware of, that you should be aware of when it comes to free speech. That's next on Will Cain Country. The 3 legal cases you need to know about from those that were involved in the case of the Colorado baker. It is Will Cain Country, streaming live at the Will Cain Country YouTube channel. Right now, if you go to my Instagram page, we do a live before the show. We're going to put those up in our YouTube channel as well. But there's a link, depending on where you are and what platform you catch us, whether or not you catch us on foxnews.com or the Fox News Facebook page or YouTube. We're going to try to link to all of these different places where you can come together and find us and hopefully hang out with us every Monday through Thursday at 12 o'clock Eastern Time. Like some members of the Willisha have, here's what they have to say today. A Immortal's Legacy comments, what in the hell do you think waking up is? Refinement. I guess that's a challenge to refinement culture. I don't know that I agree with that statement. Waking up is not refinement. Refinement is making your day look like everyone else's through optimization. Optimization might be refinement. Okay, and I understand. What do you think that conversation was I just had? I'm trying to make myself better. You're trying to make yourself better as well. But we do have to ask ourselves when we've refined ourselves into nothingness. Connie says, you wouldn't catch me in a yellow car. Well, let's now be honest for a moment, Connie. I drive a silver truck. Okay, my wife drives a black SUV. I'm not telling you I'm buying yellow and green cars. I'm just telling you we're all driving the same cars. LJ says, absolutely. I'm an interior designer and decorating, and it's not only in logos and design, decorating, clothing, makeup, etc. Right, LJ? It's happening. We're literally sleepwalking, and maybe you don't think it's bad. That's fine. But we're literally sleepwalking into one of those dystopian movies where we all dress the same, look the same, eat the same. That's where we're headed. I'm just telling you. John Elliott says, hey, Will, challenge Nate Foy on Fox to the Fitness Challenge. Oh, that's a good one. It's a good one, John. Nate is literally 6'7". I wonder how he would do.
And
he's
handsome.
In good shape. I'll tell you who I'm not. And Nate is a handsome man. I'll tell you who's a handsome man that I'm not going to challenge is Bill Malusian. I think Bill would crush it. Plus, he's like 28. So I don't know. He's not going to be somebody I call him Matt. Dan Orlovsky accepted the challenge, by the way. ESPN's yes. Dan Orlovsky will do the Pete and Bobby challenge. And he's super cocky. He's like, I'm going to do it under 5 minutes. And then he tells me he's bad at pull-ups. So we'll see, Orlovsky. But proud of you accepting it. And then Connie says, new to Will Kane Country, love the 4 o'clock show. Thank you, Connie. If you love the 4 o'clock show, we hope you hang out with us here. This is more of a hangout, a more relaxed environment that you are in a virtual moment sitting at the table. Sitting at the table now, virtually as well, is Kristen Waggoner. She's the president and CEO and general counsel at the Alliance of Defending Freedom, and she joins us now. Hi, Kristen.
Hi, how are you?
Good to have you. Just to set you up, your group, the Alliance Defending Freedom, has been defending free speech. You're best known for the Colorado Baker case. And we thought it would be good to bring you in. Free speech is a very important issue to all of us. And there's stuff going on now that we're not aware of. And we thought we'd have you walk us through some of the 3 biggest cases that we don't know right now going on defending free speech. So we'd love to sort of give you the steering wheel, and we'll let you take it away and give us case number 1.
Sure, I'm happy to. Well, ADF is the largest legal organization that is defending free speech and religious freedom and parental rights. And we've just launched the Center for Free Speech because previously we were litigating more cases than anybody else on campuses, public campuses, based on the First Amendment. But we are seeing a rising tide of censorship in the United States and also globally. And it predominantly affects digital platforms, so speech online. And we believe that that is not just a threat to the European Union or countries abroad, but again, we're seeing it in the United States. Right now, we've had 16 victories at the Supreme Court in the last 12 years or so, and we have 4 this next term alone. And all of those in some way touch on speech. So I think the first one I would raise for your listeners to be aware of is one that is at the Supreme Court right now, and that is the case called Childs, and it involves licensed counselors in over 100 jurisdictions in 20 different states. States have passed laws that say if you have a patient that comes to you, someone under 18 that has a voluntary counseling relationship, wants to set some goals, and they're confused about their identity and they want to align that identity with their biological sex, it is wrong. You can lose your license for agreeing to have a consensual conversation about that, to help that client voluntarily align with their goals. So that's a speech case. It's a violation of the First Amendment, and it's at the United States Supreme Court.
Let me see if I understand, Kristen. So therapists have a client come in, and that client is underage, and they're having confusion, you said, about their identity. So I'm assuming this is gender identity issues. I don't know if it's sexuality issues, and there's a reason I bring up sexuality. But if that, I'm assuming the situation you're describing is if that counselor doesn't sort of endorse where the kid is headed, if they have a therapy session to talk about it, talk through it, that might not be a full endorsement. Is this kind of under the banner of the conversion therapy thing? Like you shouldn't be having quote unquote conversion therapy. Conversion therapy famously is the religious and therapy practice of if a kid is saying that they're homosexual, but they may or may not want to be, then a therapist or a preacher starts talking to them about that. And, maybe you're not. And maybe, and it's been vilified as something that is bad for kids. Is this kind of what we're talking about here? That therapists can't go down this path that's being challenged at the Supreme Court?
Well, you know better than most people what the progressive left does in these types of cases, which is they use messaging that doesn't describe accurately what's actually happening in the case or what the law does. They like to label it conversion therapy. Conversion therapy there's no evidence in any of these laws that people are using shock methods or any of these types of things that the left likes to use. Instead, what this law actually restricts is speech, voluntary conversations between people, and forces counselors, it's viewpoint discrimination, it forces them to put the kid on a one-way conveyor belt to become a lifelong medical patient and struggle with their gender identity, and they can't have conversations that helps them live at peace.
This is fascinating, Kristen. I'm so glad we did this, and this is the number one case. So my kid goes into a therapist at the age of 16, let's say, and says, I'm having, a lot of thoughts about what my gender may be. I don't know. I'm feeling confused. I think I might be a girl. Unless that therapist endorses it. So if that therapist ventures down the path of, well, maybe you're not a girl. Let's talk about a few other issues that are going on. Then you're saying these states are precluding the therapist from going down that path. They have to go down the path of, yes, let's talk about that you might not be the right gender.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And gender ideology only thrives when the lies can persist, which is why the censorship issue is so important. The other cases that we were going to talk about are also out of Colorado. 2 other cases right now involving a Christian bookstore called Born Again Used Books and the athletic apparel company called XXXY, founded by Jennifer Say. Colorado has passed a law that requires these companies to use the wrong pronouns, and forces them, compels them to use these pronouns.
Really?
And if we just think about that for a minute, I mean, think about the XXXY business, right? Their whole existence is to promote the idea that men shouldn't be in women's sports and sex is binary. So this is compelled speech, and it's pervasively occurring in this gender
Kristen,
identity context.
So all of these cases, I presume you just gave us your top 3 cases that we're not necessarily aware of or paying attention to. Am I right? Those are the 3 big cases you want to talk about today. I'm curious, how does that law force XXXY to use pronouns? Like in their advertising, in their corporate offices? What are you talking about? Like where do they have to use the prescribed pronouns?
If they are interacting with a customer and the customer says, this is my preferred name and these are my preferred pronouns, this is the way I want to be addressed, there is a legal obligation to do that. They're compelled to use those pronouns and those surnames under Colorado's law. That's compelled speech. And the real kicker is there are criminal penalties for it. You can have prison time, jail time for up to 4 months if you don't abide by this.
What is going on? How do I not know about this? How do I not know about this case? We need to put the bullhorn to this immediately. This is a 5-alarm fire. This is a free speech 5-alarm fire. You need to be on the Will Cain Show on the Fox News channel today talking about this. This is insanity.
Well, I got a whole lot more where that comes from. In addition to those cases, we are seeing the Babylon Bee cases. There are 2 cases right now in Hawaii and California. And if you let those compelled speech cases go in Hawaii and California, they bleed into the other states eventually. California, as an example, has passed a law that says you can't create memes that are obviously memes, that are satire or parody, without putting huge labels and disclaimers and drowning out the joke. And they have passed laws that say large platforms can be penalized if they don't censor that speech in advance. Hawaii also has criminal penalties that are attached. So censorship is rising, and it's easy to think about it in European nations under the Digital Services Act. But we need to remember we're the last Western country in the world that is resisting the type of hate speech and misinformation laws.
And it's at the state level, to your point. Right now, what we're hearing from you is at the state level, at Colorado and California and Hawaii. But that being said, those states are still subject to the United States Constitution. Kristen, my gut on what I've learned about your cases so far, and I'm going to dive in, but from your characterization of your cases so far, ought to be a slam dunk at the United States Supreme Court.
I wish that were the case, Will. The fact that they are at the Supreme Court tells you how serious the threat is in and of itself. And I would say that throughout Western democracies around the world.
What is the Ninth Circuit? California, the Ninth Circuit is insane. What is Colorado in? What would it be like? What circuit is that? The Seventh Circuit? I don't know what that's like. But I don't expect something to be I don't expect it. I think a case could fly through a federal district court and through the Ninth Circuit appellate court to the Supreme Court with zero validity. Like the Supreme Court would still dunk on it. Just because it got through the Ninth Circuit doesn't mean anything. That'd be my guess.
Well, we have begun to win cases in the Ninth Circuit. So I do want to say that. And that's the impact of elections and being careful about who you put on the bench. So that circuit is turning. But I think the fact that we are litigating in every single space we have, in all of the different courts, we're seeing censorship that's occurring at the state level. And 1% of all cases actually get to the Supreme Court to be heard to overturn those types of cases. Now, thankfully, we're at an 86% rate right now. 6 of our last 7 petitions have been accepted, but the average petition has a 1% chance of getting adopted. And more than anything else, we can't continue to rely on 1 or 2 votes on the United States Supreme Court to protect these rights, when all the other Western democracies, they have written guarantees in their governing documents too. The First Amendment isn't about magic words. It's about citizens insisting that the government officials do not get to tell us what the truth is.
All right. Well, this is awesome. I'm going to be all over it, Kristen. I think you should expect to be hearing more from me. These cases are something else. I can't believe the nature of some of those cases. So we really appreciate you coming on with us today and highlighting some of the biggest cases that we weren't aware of. It was well worth our time. So
well, thank you.
Kristen Waggoner,
I
from the
really
Alliance of
appreciate
Defending
you
Freedom.
covering it because it takes clients, it takes average Americans standing up, not just the lawyers. It's a fight for all of us.
All right, Kristen Waggoner, thank you so much for being on Will Cain Country. All right, we have reached the finish line on this episode. We really appreciate you throughout the week migrating over to the Will Cain Country YouTube channel. It's continuing to grow. We'd love to see what's already happened in the first couple of days. That's where we want to meet you every Monday through Thursday. That in the Fox News Facebook page, that in Spotify and Apple. That is where you'll get the Cain on Sports edition of Will Cain Country tomorrow. Sports exclusive every Friday that you only get by subscribing at Spotify and Apple. We'll see you again next time.